Hey everybody, it's Julie. Welcome to Hello Monday. Today I am playing with the brand new Up the Happy stamp set from the Essentials by Ellen Winter 2016 release. And I have to admit, of all the stamp sets we released this time around, this one is actually my favorite because I just love the sentiments in this set. And I had this idea for a card, and I did not have a big, huge Planet Earth stamp, so I realized I was going to have to wing it. So I decided to get out my brand new Daniel Smith watercolors. I've never used watercolors in tubes before. This is my first time. And this is the watercolor essentials set. And then I'm also going to be using some colors from the Primatech set. So once I've got all the colors I think I'm going to need for this particular project, I'm going to add some water with a flat brush and just get it diluted down a little bit. And like I said, I've never used liquid watercolors before, so this is a new experience for me, and I just figured, well, you know what, you got to learn by doing, so I'm gonna play around and experiment with it. Now, to create my planet Earth, I decided to use the largest circle die from the Nesting Circle Dies by We Are Memory Keepers, and this is just going to serve as a template for me, and it's just going to give me a shape that I can draw, because if I tried to draw it freehand, my planet would probably end up being very lumpy, bumpy, wonky. So I had to have a guide. So I'm just laying down the color wet on dry. I decided to try this first with these watercolors since it was my first time, and that seems to be my comfort zone when I start out with watercolor for the first time. And there we go, we've got the water on the planet, and then I'm going to take my heat gun and just dry it very quickly so I can move on to the next step. So once that's dried, I just decide, okay, I might as well just lay down a foundation of the water first on the planet. And I've got my watercolor paper. This is 140 pound by Canson, and I just used some 3M painter's tape. It's low tack and it'll work nice for keeping my paper nice and flat on a old clipboard that I have here. So now I'm just going to mix a little bit of the green and yellow together to kind of get a bright, bright green. I kind of wanted a almost spring green. And then I'm winging it here with a small paintbrush and just trying to shape out the continents. And you have to pardon me because I've never painted the planet Earth before, and I didn't even have like a picture of the world in front of me to guide me while I was doing this. I was just like, okay, let's just wing it here. And I think this looks like, the North American continent, and that looks kind of like South America. And then I'm going to come in here and try to do Europe over here and just add more land masses here. And then I decide, oh, I need a couple of islands here. So let's just add some islands. And so this is not an accurate rendition of the planet. So just so you know, I'm just saying. So then once I was done, I went ahead, I added a little bit more of that yellowish color to it to just kind of add some variation in color. And then I did take my heat gun again and came over and zapped it and got it completely dry so I could continue on. And here I'm just, as you can see, I'm just like, oh, let's just add a little bit more color here and a little bit more color there. And then I reached a point where I was like, okay, stop, because you're going to end up distorting your continents here, and then it won't look like planet Earth anymore. So now I'm going to go ahead and heat set it, and then I can take the greeting stamp I want to use and get the greeting stamp there. So we'll just get all these paints out of my way and get some archival jet black inked up onto the stamp. And this says, the world is super lucky to have you. I just love that saying. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that there in the upper right corner there. And then I'll go ahead and peel away the masking tape. And you do want to pull it back on itself. I did neutralize this tape a little bit against my arm before I stuck it down so that I wouldn't mar the surface of the watercolor paper. And then I'm pulling the tape away by holding it horizontal to itself, folding it back on itself and pulling it away. Then I'm going to take some black cardstock. This is just a scrap in my scrap bin, and I prepped it with an anti-static pouch. And I'm going to ink up that same sentiment with Versamark. I did clean off the stamp really well first. And then I'm going to stamp onto that black cardstock and use some nice white embossing powder, get that sprinkled on there. Just seems like I always coat everything twice. I never just pour it on once. I pour it on twice and then flick off the excess there, kind of clean it up. And then I'm going to preheat my heat gun again and then go ahead and melt that embossing powder so it's nice and shiny and smooth. And once that's done, I decided to go ahead and chop it apart because I wanted to have the reverse. I just wanted this portion of the sentiment and I wanted it embossed in white on black for the greeting here. So I'm just going to take the portion that I need right there, super lucky, get the rest of that out of my way. I just used my tonic trimmer there to cut that out. And there you can see where super lucky is going to get fit over the top of that. So I'm trimming it down a little bit more with my scissors by hand. And then I wanted to create a fishtail banner. So I'm just going to use my scissors to trim that up, and then I will trim a slit up the center of that and then come in from each of those outer corners and cut right up to where that slit ends there in the middle, and I'll have a nice little fishtail banner. So now at this point I decided I wanted to mount this to an A2 card made from some Nina Solar White, and I needed to trim this down. So I got my tonic trimmer back out again and trimmed off about 1/4 of an inch all the way around so that I have a nice matte effect when I layer it to my base card. And I'm going to use my Teflon bone folder to go ahead and crease that fold line there so I have a nice crisp fold, and then put adhesive. Now on this one I decided to go ahead and mount it really flush to the card base. So I'm just going to make sure I have lots of tape adhesive all the way around the edges and then some in the middle to hold that down nice and firmly. And a lot of times I will flip my whole card over and press from the back to make sure I have it all anchored on there nicely. And then I took that little strip that has Super Lucky on it and put some foam tape on the back, and I'm going to mount that right over the top there. And then just for some added embellishment, I've got these really fun little gold stars. The sequins will be a perfect touch. These are the gold ones, and I just swiped them through some multi-matte medium and glued those down with my tweezers. And there you go, the card is finished. And I thought it turned out really, really cute. I love it. So all the supplies are available at ellenhutson.com. We've got more still shots and details at the Classroom blog, and thanks for watching.